Welcome to our little farm. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing to grow some living mulch. So if you have a look over here, we've actually been in this property for not very long, just under a year, so we're still really getting to know it. Now, one of the things we're so fortunate about is we've managed to get, there are a whole heap of established fruit trees on the property, and I'll show you a couple of different locations there are, and I'll show you some of the things that we're doing about making sure that they're mulched underneath. So out at the front of the property where we are now, we've got some fruit trees that are all just individually placed through the lawn. And what we've done here is we've got some sugarcane mulch in and spread it around the tree. After we had all that lovely rain, we've put it here to try to keep some of the mulch in, some of the moisture in. But what I'd like to do in future years is we want to be able to minimise having to bring in resources from the outside. And so I'm trying to grow as much of the mulch as we can ourselves. So if you have a look at here, what I've started doing, this is an example here of a little citrus. So if you're looking close, I've got a few things going on here. First of all, this is Comfrey, and what I did was we had a big bunch of Comfrey up another part of the property, which I dug up. We got the roots and then I separated it, and you've got a couple of options. You can either put the root straight into the ground, which is actually what I did here. I broke it up into small pieces and put it around, so you can see that there's one coming up here. There's another little one here, there's one here, and it's dotted around. There's probably about 6 or 7 in this area. Another option with Comfrey is you can break the root up and then put it into a box like this, styrofoam box, put them in here, and then when they shoot up to be a little plant, then you go and plant that plant out. So my idea was to get maybe about 10 in a space like this. So Comfrey is really good for it's got a really deep taproot, it brings nutrients up from deep in the earth, and then as it grows up, when the leaves in the spring and summertime are flourishing, you cut them down and you can use it as a mulch, which is a really great fertilizer. Here, come over here, darling. Okay. And so Comfrey is really good, a great living mulch for a few reasons. We've got the nutrients that it'll bring up, and then you can chop and drop around the tree. And another thing is, anything that's growing here is going to be growing instead of weeds. So it's for nutrients, it's to stop weed. And then the third thing is, it's really beautiful. Like, I think this is so lovely. And for me, a big part of a garden and an edible garden is that it's beautiful and it's lovely to look at. And you can see then we've got nasturtiums growing. And for me, that's just so pretty. So that was the other thing. We went round, I've put in lots of seeds around these trees. Nasturtiums you can eat the flowers, you can eat the leaves. The insects like them. And these will self-seed and they'll come up again next year. So it's very much a work in progress. But this is what we're trying to do around these plants out here. Okay, so this is another part of the garden. It's behind the house, it's near our chickens, so you can hear the chickens going. And this is a different style of garden. We've got these garden beds that were established along here. And then inside there were a few fruit trees, and we've actually come in the gaps and I've planted a few others. I'm a bit addicted to planting fruit trees. I don't think you can ever quite have enough. So if you see a gap, put one in, I say. And what I'm trying to do in this area is, we've got a big area, so I'm trying to minimise work as much as possible and keep it looking really beautiful. So this, I've got a different strategy here than I did out the front. Here, this is a plant here called Queensland Arrowroot, which I really love for so many reasons. If you dig it up here, there's actually arrowroot underneath there, which you can eat and you can use in your cooking, which we haven't done yet. I'm using it more as a mulch and also just for the decorative. I find it a really beautiful plant. I The leaves are lovely, it creates lots of height, and it also gives shade too, which is so important for this garden here, where it just seems to we just get so much sun up here in the subtropics. So what I did here is in this area we had a lot of areas of bare ground, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to fill it. The other thing that's here is we've got some plants here, which I don't actually know what this is. This was here before, so they're really pretty. I've been encouraging all of these kinds of plants. I'm really happy if they're here. There are bees flying around. It covers the ground, it keeps it moist. So you can see some bees flying there. So it's very easy. If you come in here with the Queensland Arrowroot, you can simply, this is a beautiful lemon tree we've got here. You can simply turn around there, cut it off. It's so simple, like this, and pop it underneath the tree. And that is how I'll mulch underneath that tree. And I can leave some up and chop some down. So I've been basically digging it up. It comes up, and it's really easy to divide. You can divide the bulbs out and then just plant those. So I've been planting them in different sections in little groups around the garden, so that next year I'll be able to come and just chop and drop in that location around that particular tree. If you look in here, there's a couple of other things to see. We have a nice situation here where it's a bit wild here. We've got a pumpkin growing, which started in underneath the tree, which I think might have come from the compost I was throwing to the chickens. So I really like that. It's growing there and it's growing here, and this is the kind of garden where it can just grow. I'm really happy about that. So this is a really big part of my plan here. I've got, for this garden, there are three plants I'm focusing on. The Queensland Arrowroot, Lemongrass, which I'll show you in a moment, and this one here, which is pigeon pea. So pigeon pea is another one of the nitrogen fixers, and it's got a really deep root. It brings up nitrogen to the leaves. You can chop it, put it around your plant. It's a little citrus not looking so good. And then that's the mulch for that, and then this will continue to grow. So earlier in the year I bought a bulk seed pack of these, and I planted them out in the styrofoam box like I showed you earlier. I had about 30 plants, planted them out. What I found was, when they were about this high, I planted them out into groups all around these gardens here. Something came to eat them. So I found if I planted 6, I'd lose about 3, which I was a bit disappointed about, but I managed to get some coming through. I'd love to have lots more, so I'll know for next year I probably need to protect the plant. I don't know what was eating them, but just protect them a little bit more so that I can get them growing all the way through here. This is the other part of the garden just over here. There's also, yeah, you can see the butterflies growing through here. And this is some of the perennial basil. So same idea, we've got this is the Queensland Arrowroot again, but the leaf is slightly different. So it's a really beautiful plant. So I'll come in there and chop that around one of those trees that I've got over there. Okay, the last thing to show is the lemongrass. Okay, so this is my third plant for out the back here that I've been focusing on. This is lemongrass. I think this is just such a gorgeous plant to have in the garden. Obviously for lemongrass tea and used in cooking, but also it gives lots of height and shade. So what we did, we had another plant just like this, and it was growing a little bit in a spot we didn't want, so we dug it up and we were able to separate all the root system, and as long as we got a little bit of root with a little bit of the leaf, I then went along to that part of the garden that I showed you, that really big sort of area, and we planted in the ground with this idea that I can get a lemongrass hedge growing along that fence line. And what I'd like to be able to do then is to be able to come back and just mulch it and be able to mulch on the spot with lemongrass mulch. And the other thing is use it in for our guinea pigs and for our chickens At the moment we've just bought a big bag in of lemongrass mulch that we're putting into the chickens' nesting boxes. So I'd love to be able to grow that ourselves and not have to buy it. So that's our other strategy for out the back here. So the three we're focusing on is the lemongrass, the pigeon pea, and the Queensland Arrowroot, and then just the flowering plants that are already there. So I guess that's 4, not 3. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and watch this space for next year. Hello.
Why don't you just cut those?
I'm chopping it.
What?
I'm going to make mulch and I'm putting it around this avocado tree so that we keep our avocado tree really healthy and happy. Put it around like that, and then this will grow up again and we'll be able to do it again next time. Pretty good, isn't it?
I like this pea, Mummy.
Well, that's a flowering plant. That helps bring the bees to the garden. Can you see any bees? I saw some earlier flying around. Oh, there's one. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
It's going into the pollen. Look at that.
Is my honey now? That'd be my honey now.
Yeah, I think it will make honey.
That's our honey. That's our bee live in. We like bees.
We do like bees. It'll probably go back to Martine's house where she makes the honey. Well, the bees make the honey and then she collects it. Martine lives down the road. I'll just cut this one too. Say thank you very much to the plant. Do you want to put one here around? Okay. I'll give you another one. There you go. Put that there. Cut this one.
Why did the car just fail?
Why, what avocado tree?
Yeah, right.
Well, it's going to grow up and we're going to get some avocados from it. There we go. That looks happy now. I like you too.
I like you.
The roosters cried in unison.